Good evening from here, and a very warm welcome this evening, and happy to have you with us. We will be having a topic today of true weight management, body, mind, and spirit imbalance. And I very much like this quote by Yana Kingford that balance is not something you find, it's something you create. So it is wonderful. The potential is in our hands. It's just that we're living in a world where it is emphasized that there are quick fixes, and we all know what may be helpful, but it can be frustrating when the results don't last. So it feels like a holistic approach, which includes all the facets of the mind, the body, the spirit, and how we can empower ourselves and have this vision of how we want to be. And we'll be hearing first from Dr. Namrata, and she's a general practitioner in Cambridgeshire, also with a lot of information around nutrition. So she'll be marrying up both of those things. And we'll be inviting her in first to share. I'll also be sharing about my experiences and understanding of the mind and understanding in spiritual philosophy, which I've taken great benefit from. And this is more like a family, so we're really happy to hear from you, your thoughts, your questions. Do feel free to share in the chat with myself. We'll bring them into the discussion. So thanks again. Welcome to those who've just joined, and I'll be handing over now to Namrata. And good evening. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. I will share my screen just to make sure people can see it. Is that okay?
It's good, thank you.
Brilliant. So yes, with true weight management, of course, what it leads up to is the feeling, to be happy, to be healthy, and feel full and fulfilled. Because if we are not feeling any of that, then it doesn't really matter, whether you're high weight, low weight, but not healthy or not happy or fulfilled, then we feel something is missing. Now, we'll explore what are the challenges, whatever weight types, because this is not a talk on eat less, exercise more, you're going to lose weight, because we know it's far deeper than that. So if we address the root causes and seek to understand what are the real issue, we're more able to reach those health goals. So what we see that it is an emotive subject, the aspect of weight, whether it's low or high. And for a lot of people, the physical appearance is linked to the happiness level. So when they do manage to achieve that healthy goal, weight, they feel happy. But then when they can't maintain it, they gain it again, there is so much frustration, sadness, upset, and anger. And many people, we know that they strive a lot, sometimes extreme measures in terms of what they do, what they eat, how much exercise, and even at a financial cost to reach these. And what we also find is many of them whose happiness were linked with their physical appearance, even though they do achieve that goal and they look however they want, they're still not happy. And in fact, I've had a few patients who've actually said, I thought I'll lose weight and I'll be happier. People are complimenting me and I feel happy when they compliment me. But I've never been more sad in my life. I feel really low, very down, because I don't know what else to do. It's a bit like they've achieved their weight, they're maintaining it, but this wasn't what they were looking for in terms of that inner happiness. So we think, what's going on? And the higher the happiness, the lower the crush, with regards to the weight. We find that there's also a lack of understanding of one's own body and health, because what happens is we find stories, like say some people reach their 40s and they've always eaten healthy, always exercised. For no reason, they're gaining weight. And then they don't really know what's happening, and then they try and go on a diet. It works initially, and then it stops working. And then you're like, what else? What is happening? Because every body, every person's body is different, and different types of health condition. And then, so with the lack of understanding, so much information on the diet type. We see people, going online, social media, they say, try this, then they try this, it doesn't work, then you try that, and it doesn't work. It's kind of, blindly following diets, even supplements, wasting a lot of money. Sometimes, because the program says, do this, do that, we just follow like a robot, but we don't really understand, what's happening. And we find that sometimes people take some drastic measures. They do achieve their weight goal, but at the expense of their health. So their health goes down. And there are some people, again, these are real life examples, they go extreme measures, maybe extreme exercise. And then for some reason, maybe because of lack of calcium, because of loss of muscle, they lose balance, they fall, they fracture, or they sprain their ankle, and then they are bedbound. So they cannot do that extreme measure anymore, and that leads to further weight gain, further unhappiness. And same for the diet as well. Some people on supplements, and then the supplement goes out of stock, and then you're like, what do I do now? So anything, if it's extreme and if it's out of balance, and if someone is dependent solely, on one single factor, then we know there will be a problem in the future. And of course, people have different lifestyles, night shift workers, so we need to take all of that in consideration. And probably we all had experience. You go to your doctors and or any healthcare professional, and there's lack of support, because some people have told me it's always the same advice, eat less, exercise more. And then some people say, I really don't eat much, but I'm still gaining weight. Or I've tried everything, what I was trying, it was working, now it doesn't work. So you kind of at your wit's end. Sometimes you have blood tests, to check your hormones. All the hormones are normal, and they tell you it's normal. And we know sometimes blood tests don't really reflect any hormone imbalances as well. So it may not be entirely true. And thinking of the health consequences. So, of course, people know about the cardiovascular effect, the diabetes, immune system, affects, your metabolism, cancers. Those who are underweight, similar problem. It's not only for people who have higher weight. Underweight would have weak bones, osteoporosis, fractures. You can have heart condition as well, palpitation, low magnesium, low phosphate. And then even if it's not major health consequences, it affects the quality of life. It affects your joints, you're in pain, you can't walk properly, skin gets dry, skin can get wrinkly, breathing difficulties, and overall tiredness. So there's so much consequences, health effects on abnormal weight, either end. And then the goal is actually on being healthy and maintaining a healthy weight. So for this, we know that quick fixes, they do not work long term. They actually make things worse. And we use the examples of the health consequences. So you might be doing some extreme measures, but it led to some health consequence that now you're having weak bones, or, like risk of fracture, for example. And what we also know, people who say they've been trying a form of diet, maybe low calorie, and then it stops working because the body is intelligent, body will adapt. So if we're feeding the body less, it knows that, okay, there's less food, what we call starvation mode. So it slows your metabolism. And one is not able to maintain that weight because it's out of balance. You can't sustain on that. So when you start eating better, your body is still in starvation mode. So you go, as in your metabolism is slower. So then we gain more weight, even though we lost, before. So it's worth knowing the consequences. And yeah, we talked about that. And we've talked about the extreme measures, what happens. Now, some medication and some quick fixes, they may be required in some cases. So say somebody has severe diabetes and their life is at risk, we really need to reduce the weight. Or someone is waiting for surgery, it could be a knee replacement, a heart, lung, whatever surgery, and a low or a high weight means they are at risk, a post-surgical complication. So yes, these people may need some quick fixes so we can achieve a normal weight so we can do the operation, but we know it's not long term. Even operation is successful, higher weight or lower weight will cause a problem in the future. And there's so much, media about weight loss injections. Many people are going to their doctors for that. Many are actually seeking private help because it's widely available in the pharmacies, and really good results actually. And people are so happy. You lose weight really quickly. 3 months, 6 months, you're happy. But then recent studies show that within 1.5 to 2 years of stopping the meds, because, unless you have diabetes and you're on these medication long term, but if it's purely for weight loss, then 1.5, 2 years, your weight goes back up 4 times faster than if you were on a diet and exercise regime, for example. And what it means is, say you stop it's the end of the injection, maybe after 6 months, very happy, lost, 2, 3 stones. You know that in a year or two, if there hasn't been changes to lifestyle, you will gain back really fast. And what's the reason for that? These weight loss injections, they kind of switch off the feeling of craving, and they make you feel fuller. So, you eat a little bit, you feel full, so you're less likely to snack, you're less likely to eat more. It makes you feel full. But that feeling of fullness, it's not coming from you, it's the medication. And if we haven't changed our lifestyle or our mindset to feel full, then when the injection is stopped, like you can see, there's nothing else to make you feel full anymore, we're more likely to kind of everything that we've lost before, or, you achieved, it just goes back to square one. And all the risk factors, whether it was heart condition and all, it goes back to what it was before. And they are very expensive when you go private. And also we're finding more side effects. They are rare, but more is coming to light. And we're still not knowing the direct reason. So say eye loss, vision problems, gallstone, pancreatitis, lots of side effects are coming up. Now we are finding these side effects. So it's important to think long term. You don't want to be very happy now. Everybody's congratulating you how healthy you look. And in 2 years, you probably might be lower, in the mood if we don't take action. And then some words on calorie counting. If we are eating healthy, and we will talk about that, then we don't really need to count calories. So healthy means, high in fiber, proteins, fats, because what calorie is, so if we look at this example, 100 grams of sugar, it's the same calories as 1 avocado, right? So what would you have? When you look at a pack and it says it's low calorie, and you think, oh, low calorie. But when you look at the back, it's really high in sugar. So calories sometimes means nothing. You need to see where is this calorie coming from. Because if this calorie is coming from something unhealthy, then it's just gonna cause weight gain and it's gonna cause health problems. And then, food packaging, they all focus on calories. I mean, another example, when we look at the, people talk about low-fat yogurt and low-fat this, low-fat that. But to make that low-fat taste better, they add more sugar to it. And sugar is far more dangerous than some of the healthy fats. So it's very important to see where the calories are coming from. And then the long-term solution. So it's not just one thing. I'm going to go extreme diet or extreme exercise. It's a balance of several things. And most important that I find in that is the mindset. And of course, there's the understanding of why we're doing what we're doing, right? But the mindset, why? Because there will be some changes to habits, but they have to be happy changes, something that you can do, something that doesn't take too much toll on your lifestyle, because everybody's busy, too busy to do anything, too busy to cook, too busy. So we want quick things, right? And these four things, they're not exclusive, they are related. So if we take an example, say you have, I don't know, say a 40-year-old mother or any person, they are busy, they have a full-time career, or they might be someone who's a carer, they've got grandparents to look after. So busy life, and with that busy, you don't have time. And on top of that, because you don't have time, we're more likely to kind of have quick fixes, reach for quick things. We may not be sleeping properly because of all that stress. And then many people will still try and fit the gym because they feel that, oh, I don't have time and I don't have time to exercise. So let me go to the gym and do this class and that class. So what happens is you tend to overwhelm yourself. So the whole life becomes stressful. And this is why a point comes that you feel you have no energy. Like, I don't want to go to the gym. I just don't have time and energy, but you still have to, just because you feel that it's helping. But actually, it may not. People might notice that, like we said early on, if health is not good, so yes, you might be losing weight, you might be healthy weight, but if we're not eating properly, we're not sleeping properly, stress all the time, we won't be happy. It will lead to other health problems. So we'll explore each aspect. So I'm starting on the muscle strength and moving the body. I'm not calling it exercise because we all know that we have to exercise more and move more and walk more. But the question is why? What is it we're looking for? And why did I put muscle strength? Because we all are going to grow old. And as we grow older, it's natural that we lose our muscle strength. It's normal, right? So if we're focusing on, say, cardio exercise, or, like where we have to run or walk fast, anything cardio, but not in increasing our muscle, then what happens is you do lose the weight, right? So you lose calories, you lose weight, but alongside losing fats, you will also lose your muscle because we're not focusing on building muscle. But what we actually want when we want to achieve, say, a weight loss for healthy weight, we want to lose the fats, lose the weight, but we want to gain strength. Because remember, we talked about people who don't gain strength. They're at risk of, balance issues, weakness, they can fall, they can fracture. So we don't want that. And then people who are underweight, of course, you want to eat more calories, but you don't want to gain unhealthy fat. In fact, you want to gain muscle and gain strength for the same reason we said above. So what is the role of muscle? Why? So like we said, as we grow older, we lose muscle, but we start accumulating these unhealthy fats. And why is that? It's because muscle, they store any excess sugar. So you eat carbohydrates. This is our staple diet. Most people are, potato, pasta, rice, anything carbs. We're very much a carb society. So the more carbs you have, if you're burning it off, fair enough. But anything excess goes to your liver. And then from liver, it goes to your muscle. If you don't have enough muscle, the excess sugar, it gets stored into your fat cells in your belly. So the belly fat is where the unhealthy fat is. And what is hypertrophy and hyperplasia? Hypertrophy is that small fat cell, they start getting bigger and bigger and they start multiplying. So hypertrophy is the fat cells become bigger. Hyperplasia, you have more fat cells and there's no limit to how big they can grow. There is no limit. So it will keep growing, if your body needs more storage capacity for sugar, right? And we know about what we call visceral fat. So these are the unhealthy fat that's around your belly, and it can go around your organs. And this is the reason for all these, heart condition, diabetes, strokes, but also liver problem. A lot of kind of common things we see is abnormal liver test. You go to your GP, liver is abnormal, don't drink alcohol. It's actually fatty liver, we call it. And this fatty liver can lead to severe liver consequences, similar to people who drink alcohol, for example, but this will be like a non-alcoholic fatty liver kind of thing, but can have, similar consequence as cirrhosis. And then we also find it's more of an issue if people have hormone imbalance. So, for example, polycystic ovaries, or if there's insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes. So, if your body is not able to store sugar properly, then more sugar, like there's more excess sugar in the body and they will be stored in fats. And when we have excess abnormal fat, what happens? It reduces the satiety hormone in the brain. So normally you eat, you feel full, the brain says stop eating. But if that's switched off, you will tend to overeat, and that causes more problem. The other thing with muscle is it burns 3 times more calories at rest. So if you're at rest and you have a good muscle bulk, you might be eating more, but you may not be gaining weight because you have enough muscle to burn these calories. But if you don't have enough muscle, then we're more likely to gain weight. Now let's explore further on those 4 areas. So first on the muscle and exercise, of course, walking and all. But how about the mindset? Now, if someone is going onto a long-term health goal, whether it's gaining more weight or losing, it's about sustaining that goal. It's about maintaining. And for that, there will be new habits. And if our mindset is not good, is not positive right from the start, then we won't be able to sustain it. It will be just a quick fix and we will be what we call, yo-yoing up and down, roller costing. And the question to ask is, even, despite the weight, do I feel fulfilled and happy regardless? If I don't, what it means is it won't matter whether I achieve my goal. A few months, years after my weight goal achievement, I will be back to the baseline of how I feel, because we always revert back to who we are and how we feel. So it's very important to work at this level, on fulfillment, on that real self, on how I actually feel. The other question is, am I working against my body or with my body? So if right from the beginning, I don't like myself, I don't like the body, and I'm rejecting it, it's a bit like working with a little child, when you show the child how to do things, how to change. We can't work against them because it won't work. So at the end of the day, it's my responsibility, it's my body, I'm going to face health consequences. So, a lot of what we call self-sabotaging thoughts. So we create thoughts, which is our own block. And it's something we call victim consciousness. So I see it in a few patients. It's something, it could be normal until we recognize what we're doing to ourselves. So, things like, oh, it doesn't work. I've tried it so many times. It runs in my family. My family, they're on the big side. So I'm like that. And then, these are not excuses. Just because your family's on the big side, it's not an excuse for you to keep eating chips and pizzas and unhealthy things, Um, and things like it doesn't work. The other thing I hear is I can't exercise. I've never exercised before and I just can't do it. Or I'm in a lot of pain. So when I walk, I am in pain, so I can't exercise. It's basically, instead of finding out what can I do, because exercise doesn't always mean walking if you've got knee pain or running. There's so many strength we call, muscle building. So even at home, you can start with, like 500 mils of water bottle and do some like upper arm exercise. And then you can get some dumbbells, from home. And literally 1 or 2 minutes here and there can help. What is the other thing I hear is, oh, it's too expensive. Eating healthy is too expensive. And it's not entirely true. And we'll talk on that because sometimes people, we're just stuck to what we think, vegetables and fruits. This is what we know, and we stick to what we know. But there's so many other things that form part of vegetables and legumes and all, and they're not as expensive. So it's kind of, instead of blocking myself, can I find out more what's there and what can I do? And of course, when there's stress causes cortisol release. Cortisol is the natural steroid of the body. And it's important. It's important to wake you up, to run, to, avoid danger. But if we're constantly in the stress mode, it means you're producing natural cortisol. So natural sugar is getting released in your body because cortisol, it kind of gets your sugar out because it's preparing you to run away, to fight, or freeze. Stress is not only mental, we're even talking, like we say, anyone who is constantly busy, you wake up, quickly go to work, quickly eat, quickly do this, you come home, no time, you're so tired, and then you sit and you're scrolling on your mobile. You have time because that's why we are wasting time scrolling, doom scrolling on the mobile, but we can't do anything else because we're just so tired. And that's probably because of these stress hormone. And this is opposite to what we call rest, digest, and repair. So what happens, the opposite of stress, when we are in a restful mode, not necessarily that we're not doing anything, but if the mind is at rest, then you're more likely to absorb the nutrients. So if your cortisol is up and you're eating breakfast quickly, you're grabbing lunch quickly and eating, it's not, you're not absorbing the nutrients. So you're going to be feeling more tired, then more demotivated, and all of that. We talked about cortisol increasing the sugar. Excess cortisol, it also causes what we call muscle catabolism, which means it can break down muscle. So you lose muscle strength and then increase fat, as we said. So excess sugar will be stored as unhealthy fat. So what happens when we work on our mindset and our stress level, and Sarah will be covering more on this, we're more likely to make the right choices with regards to, what we eat. We have more clarity and more understanding of, on an individual level for our own body. And there's more positive outlook towards the body, towards life. We feel more fulfilled, more happy. We're less likely to comfort eat because a lot of the time we're comfort eating, to feel good. It's not because we're hungry. And then, some people think, oh, stress, I need to meditate long time, and I don't have time. Nobody has time. So it's not about that. It's changing mindset, literally take a few seconds. We just have to change our mindset, create some good thoughts, and have some short kind of 1 minute, 4 minutes here and there, it has an incremental value. And then finally, nutrition. So it's not about calories, it's about eating for health. It's about thinking what makes you fuller for longer. And this is mainly the fiber, adequate protein, especially plant protein. And why is that? Because they balance the blood sugar. So like we said, if we're mainly carbs, so carbohydrate, they have quick release of sugar. You're not maybe moving enough to use up the sugar, so it can come into fat storage. And then healthy fats, because fats make you more satiated. Fats have more calories in them, so you feel fuller. Whereas if you just have carbs, for example, especially the quick acting ones, after an hour, you're hungry again. So, for example, people go to those junk food, McDonald's and all, and it's a massive burger you're having with chips. You feel really full, to the point that you might throw up. But after 1 hour, you're hungry again, because it's absorbed very quickly, and there wasn't any protein at all. There was no fiber. We talk about plant protein in terms of fiber, and there was no healthy fat to keep you full. When we feel full, we're less likely to snack. And then if we have these quick release carbs, you don't have enough energy after that. Then just for that energy, you feel, I need to eat more. You feel hungry, you feel you need to snack. People have, when you your energy goes down, your blood sugar goes down, you crave, you feel tired, irritated, hormone imbalance. And cravings, lead to excess sugar and fat again. So how we say, if you eat a diet that's quick release of sugar, you feel good, it spikes. But then as you spike, you will crash. And that's the danger zone. That's when you're going to crave, you're going to, you would want that dopamine hit. You want to feel good quicker. And at that time, your brain isn't working. You will reach for the quickest sugary food that there is, right? So the aim is, if at the start you ate something that keeping you fuller, so high protein, plant protein, fiber, healthy fats, you're not going to reach that crash. You will then be more balanced. You'll be more rational in terms of when is the next time to eat, what food do I need? And then with fiber, in this country, we don't have enough fiber, that's why there's more bowel cancer, more constipation, more diverticulosis. And fiber is not only just to feel full, but it's also linked with our good gut bacteria. So the good gut bacteria, which I know people know about gut health, they're very closely linked to what we call the satiety signal, the gut-brain axis. So they tell our brain that we're full, stop eating these gut bacteria. If you don't have enough fiber, fiber is food for the gut bacteria. They survive on them. So then we have the bad bacteria in the gut, and they can't tell the brain. They maybe tell your brain that you're still hungry and you keep eating more. And then the other thing is the quick eating, stressful eating. If we are eating quickly, we are not mindful, what happens is we don't absorb the nutrition. We start having digestive issues, and we feel less energized because we're eating to feel energy, to feel full, but we feel opposite, more tired, mood disturbance. So, and with the mindless eating, we can't tell when we're full. Maybe your brain is telling you you're full, stop eating, but we're not paying attention. Our mind is on our mobile, on the TV, talking about something else. Then we will bypass that signal from our brain, and we will tend to overeat. So before we eat, it's very kind of good to understand and how it all works, why we're eating. We're eating to have the nutrition. So good to be mindful. Sometimes we advise people to breathe. So it's called diaphragmatic breathing. There's this thing called vagus nerve activation. So it's good to research on these names. So vagus nerve is the opposite of stress response. So if you're calm and you're breathing deep and you're eating mindfully, you're likely to absorb the food. And I just wanted to put this, maybe when you listen to the recording, have a look at this. It's the different types of plant proteins, from grains, nuts and seeds, beans and pulses, lentils, protein pasta. Because sometimes when I give patients advice, or increase your nuts, maybe cashew. I mean, recently I had someone who never heard of cashew. They were like, what is that? Because we only shop in one place. So we only look at what catches our eye, and we don't know anything else, and we think, oh gosh, what can I eat? My diet is so restricted. So it's worth looking at these names, researching recipes, very simple recipes. And with these, it's not always one type of cooking, You can make, like, say, with the beans, pulses, lentils, it's not always soup and dal. You can make like a Mexican type, you can make a Chinese type, you can mash it to make a hummus, you can blend it to make a pancake, you can make your own burger at home, and they're very quick things, So have a look at them. And then rainbow vegetable. So the advice is to eat 25 to 30 varieties a week. Why? Because sometimes we stick to the same thing every single day. More variety, i.e. more colors, means there's going to be more for our gut health. It's going to work on the weight, on the gut microbiome, makes you feel happier, healthier, for your mood as well. So it's good to make a list of what you like, what are the red vegetables, red fruits, same for purple, yellow, orange, green, and then stick it on your fridge. So every day you look at it and you see, am I eating a variety? And people who are, who think they're kind of overweight and want to lose weight, we say avoid the white starches. So, if you're surviving on white potatoes, white pasta, white rice all the time, because they release sugar more quickly, but they're beige food. Most of the time, this is how our diet looks. It's just beige. You don't get enough of the nutrition. And finally, on sleep, what happens during sleep is you're repairing during your sleep, and it resets your satiety hormone. So if you have poor quality sleep for whatever reason, you would have noticed that you'll feel more tired during the day, you're irritable, you're more likely to binge eat. And then the poor balancing of hormone, because they repair, poor sleep means you're not repairing all these inflammation and toxins, especially from the unhealthy fats. So it just makes the issues worse. And then a word on night shift workers, because I've also been there. So what happens is, we know night shift workers, they're at higher risk of cardiovascular health disease, of diabetes and all of that. So what happens is during the night, your body's craving, you want caffeine and you want to be awake. But actually, we need to feel fuller for longer. So we are not craving at nighttime. So it's high protein, high fiber, healthy fats before you go to work. Then you will feel full. You won't feel the need to eat. Then when it's your mid shift, as in your lunchtime at night, same thing, right? And then when you finish work, if possible, if you're not going to bed straight away, because most people eat something very quickly and then go to bed. If you're eating something quickly and then sleeping, we're not really digesting properly. We're going to be piling more weight. So the advice is try not to eat 2 to 3 hours before you're going to bed in the morning. And if you are going to have something easily digestible, like a protein smoothie, like a high protein, high fiber, high fats. Smoothie or liquid or soup means you're going to stomach is just going to absorb it, and then you can sleep. And then less need for snacking and all. Of course, if you're, with this kind of high fiber diet, you're balancing your blood sugar. So you're not going to be relying on caffeine. Yeah. So this is in summary. When you see this recording again, it explains more in details about, how much plant protein, how much fiber. And this is general advice, for the general public. And if people have specific health condition, some of this might need tweaking. And just to let you know, on the Inner Space YouTube, Cambridge one, there has been previous talk. So this talk is linked with the metabolic health one. You will find, you know, thriving with lightness and happiness, for example, and lots of different ones, which is very linked to this one. So hopefully you can have a look at these. That's all. Thank you. I think Sarah will take from here.
Always appreciate such a comprehensive overview, and just having information itself feels very empowering. So also enjoy the cooking ideas. Maybe we need another session with Namrata on this. I feel what I see in myself and what I've learned is there's a tendency, and especially with health, to want to rush into fixing, and it's with good intentions. But often we may have observed this too, that to have real change, it helps when we step back and see, you know, the bigger picture, if you like. So I will also continue a bit more on this aspect of mindset. And hopefully you see the screen. So we've learned really a lot about this interconnected concept of the brain and the body and sleep, movement and nutrition. We want to look a bit more at the inner environment as well as the mindset and the belief systems, and that inside out dimension of well-being and regulation and relationship with the body. Because the way that we meet our life from within ourselves can either support or it can quietly undermine the things that we know are right, and also the things we've heard. We have to sort of understand. And this quote I quite liked, and Namrata alluded to it also. We don't rise to the level of the goals we have. We tend to fall to the level of our systems. And we could take that as being belief systems, for example. And so if we step back and really look at what it is in terms of my understanding of the world, and this similar idea really from Albert Einstein, we can't solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So maybe just more like a meditation for one moment or so, 1 minute or so, to use this image, but the concept of zooming out. So just for these few moments, first of all, consciously relax wherever I am, whatever I'm doing. And just check the breath is natural, deeper rather than shallow. Releasing any tension from the body, including the shoulders. Really enjoying this feeling of stepping back and zooming out. Just like when we go to a high place, everything ordinary is there, but it looks small down below. And a sense of quiet and broader vision. And zooming out even further in the eye of the mind, as if seeing this planet beautiful, but I can step back, experience a sense of unconditional peace. with the self that has a relationship with the physical. And when I zoom back, it is like with a feeling of visiting, coming into sound and into actions and relationships from inside out. Thank you. So I want to just take us through some aspects which I found always helpful, and I can revisit this and learn something each time. Really understanding where we are anchored and our concept and sense of the self. And one way that I noticed I was operating before I started to be interested in well-being, meditation, as I was very much orientated in the notion of self from the outside in. So when it comes to the appearance, it's like when I look right, feel lighter, or perform better, then I'll be okay, then I feel good. And it could be the external validation from others, it could be the grades, it could be success at work, or a feeling that I've achieved some possessions. It could even be in our relationships. And often if we try to create a pause for the mind, we might notice the mind jumps from one thing to another in our lives. I remember that feeling, it was jumping from the relationship to the mortgage to the job, as if I'm tied to those things for my feeling of fullness. So when Namrata talked about that cortisol, the stress, it feels like I'm giving my sense of fulfillment and validation, often from outside in. If I haven't questioned it, it leads to a pressure or a self-judgment. I might try to control people or things in order to feel good. So I don't know if this is recognizable, but it's something I never really questioned. But peace meant when everything outside is going well and life is good. So no wonder there can be a feeling of a little bit emptiness. And we've tried to reach that and meet that in different ways. So another notion is the idea of coming from inside out, the notion that I am already whole, that I come into this world from a sense of fullness, and that my actions become an expression of care also to the body also, not trying to fix a sense of lack. And that life is the same, but I operate more with a response rather than reaction. There's a possibility of an intention that I choose rather than subservient to situation. And that feels a lot more grounded, because if the identity is from outside, depending on the body appearance, society's vision of me, and I'm trying to meet that, it carries an emotional weight. And that has the feeling that something is not right. If I can somehow get this mindset, the identity is rooting in the being, the self is already enough, there's a sense of inherent fullness. Something inside is deeply relaxed. And I think when I started the notion of meditation, it was maybe even a few seconds, but this idea that there's something that is me, that is so deeply peaceful, this is really who I am, that's my nature. And I might forget it, but it is always there, I can come back to it. So perhaps one aspect of overeating, overconsumption of media even, is we take things from outside in. It's maybe to meet a sort of unmet inner need, because as was mentioned, food can become a comfort, or it might make us feel grounded, or often it's like a reward, or it could be a distraction from the feelings that I don't want to have. But maybe the deeper hunger might be actually for rest, or for meaning, or reassurance, or maybe just to be more present. And I think that's what the message of, say, spirituality is so beautiful, that it is pointing to this inherent fullness. There's nothing wrong with you, but maybe we're feeding the wrong hunger all along. We're trying to solve it from that space, and it kind of can increase the notion that I need that thing that I got to feel full. So something we can do if we pause, and it's very powerful what was shared, even if it's 1 minute, to see the whole world system that we're living in, the idea that we are already whole, and we're coming into this world from a sense of fullness. So even if it's, like we said, 1 minute, this image of an idea of a being. So let's just sit with this idea for 1 minute. There is something that is already full, already beautiful, and absolutely experiencing that inner love and giving that for others. And that is maybe the truth. That's who I really am. I feel most at home when I'm experiencing this in myself. That notion of not needing anything right now. Thank you. So that was very short, but maybe you could feel it is an idea, but it creates an experience to inquire and to ask questions. What is the feeling of the self, of being already whole and coming into this world from fullness? Sometimes I've used writing, writing things down to get the focus into that experience. And what it does, before I might have gone to food, I might have gone to a person, or I might have tried to music, something external to change my feeling. Here we just went within, and that has a huge power, that you are meeting that need within the self by experiencing these inequalities. But we want to take it just a little further also. When we did the zooming out, we can get this notion that we're coming into this world as if from a space of freedom, and then we are kind of entering into this world. And that experience is actually very interesting to understand, that we are as if in this world like a guest. I'll give you this orientation. On the bottom right, we have a retreat centre in Oxford, and you might have visited there also. You might be going anywhere to a friend's or a weekend away, and you have a very clear relationship. You are whole and you have your life, and you are given this extra experience for a few days. So there's a lot of clarity. and you're not taking from that place to fulfill any need. You have a great time. So you have your place on the left, maybe your apartment, and then you go here. Your guest experience means that you have a lot of clarity. You know you can't own anything. You know that you will be leaving. You appreciate every moment. And you naturally have gratitude, but you're also happy to look after the place. And you might even enjoy the process of leaving and leaving the place as you find it. The whole thing is beautiful experience. So this idea that we have a relationship with the place of honor, and we remain in our honor, and then we have a journey also. So this spiritual perspective, the idea that I am already whole and I come into the world from fullness, it is like we are guests in the physical world and guests in the body. Suddenly I now have a relationship rather than I'm so bound to it that I feel I need everything from matter, from outside. This is a very deep thing. This is like a reflection that we can take with us. But even 1 minute, what does it feel like that you are coming into this experience? Every moment is a gift. Everything is extra. That might also help us to experience meaning, because this journey itself is an amazing gift. And here to express, here to enjoy interactions, but never losing that clarity that I have a journey. So this dignity, this inner awareness, you are having a place to come from and into. So in a way, we're not trying to control the outer world to fulfill the needs, that we already have those things as a notion. So just noticing how that feels. And this 1 minute practice, we mentioned you can do this very like good concentration for 1 minute. You might notice many other things ease, that pressure of meeting everything from the outside in. So the meditation practice is also saying we are operating the body like a being driving a car. So car is needing care, it needs certain things, and you are using the car, are fully involved. But that little space, that little separation gives quite a nice feeling of relief, because whatever the car is like, there may be limitations. Car also gets old, but they're not the limitations of the driver. And you can honor the car, but they're not your needs. So in the same way, we see that we are guests, invisible traveler, and the body is like the vehicle. I think that also creates a relief. And maybe a lot of things can be solved with the inner awareness that the driver has his own world, if you like. You can come out of the car, you have another reality. The same way we have a relationship. And when we experience this reality behind, it is really a place where you can experience that peace, where everything is an experience of fullness. You're not looking to take that from outside of you. Every guest has a home. So these ideas, they start to play with the mindset. We start to see things differently. And I remember living in London and getting these experiences, and it's like your vision can change. You no longer are taken up and taken in by advertising that just shows you a picture and you end up wanting that thing. a lot more awareness, a lot more clarity, and that is very empowering. So along with some of these ideas where we have the practical information, we're also having that strength to put into place what it is we know is the best for the chariot, for the body, for the vehicle. So I'm going to hand back to Namrata now, and very happy if you would like to share any thoughts, any questions. There is already a question, but first it would be nice to hear from Namrata, also your experiments, experiences on your journey, maybe to be nice to hear.
Yeah, this that feeling of living from the inside out, it's so important because it gives you power. You're empowered to make your own choices, your decisions. And we didn't touch on this idea of obesogenic society on a previous talk. If you look on Inner Space YouTube, there is one on metabolic health. It's basically the whole society is a consumer society. Everywhere you go, it makes you want to eat, 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 buy. You go to tank your car up. If you have to pay in the shop, you have to walk through chocolates. If you're going to do your food shopping, the first thing is bakery. If you go to the airport, just going to take a flight, it's just, so if you're not full from the inside, and you may not even be hungry, but you will be attracted. Everybody's eating, everybody's doing that, so you will just do it anyway. Whereas when you're empowered inside, that feeling of fullness, you won't even have the thought. You know that you've eaten, you're okay. And similar experience, we talk about the night shift worker, it's the same. You feel so depleted in energy, so tired, and you're not hungry, but you just want a dopamine hit to feel good. So we reach out for these unhealthy things, even for coffee. And people on a weight loss journey, for example, even those who want to gain weight because they're underweight, if, like we say, the starting position, we haven't worked on our mindset, we will easily be influenced either way, in terms of it's not actually what we need, it's what we fall for because we're not in our power. So the key is focus on the fullness, both on a spiritual, mental health level, and also on a nutritional level. So nutrition wise, if we've eaten well, so my own kind of journey to health, because I've been doing so much night shifts and busy life, stressful life, and then you add more, you finish your normal shift at 8 o'clock at night. And then I used to go to the gym because I thought, oh gosh, I need to exercise, right? But that will end up eating late at night, like packing my life so much busy, busy, busy that the body was depleted of nutrition. And then the moment one started focusing on the being, reducing that stress, eating a fuller meal. So what was happening is I was feeling fuller, eating more of the healthy stuff. And then the weight wasn't even a concern. It kind of gradually went away and it was maintained. There was no thought like, oh, I need to eat healthy and I need to exercise more. It was more focused on the root cause and then everything else falls in place. Yeah.
It's really helpful to hear experience and your journey also. And it's also interesting that the concern shifted to the root and then actually other things fall into place. And it's not what we need, it's what we fall for. Sounds like a good quote from Namrata. And the question which came connected to why we should avoid heavy meals before bed. The question is, she says she's been eating dinner 2 hours before bed and didn't notice any effect on her weight loss. It didn't notice it affecting her weight loss.
Yeah. So we have to take all into account in terms of what is it we're eating. So before the night shift, are we eating enough, like we said, protein, fats, fiber, midway? And then, because it's not just about the food, it's the high cortisol level, the stress level, all the aspects we talked about, the quality sleep as well. If eating 2 hours before, maybe the question is, what is it we're eating? We don't need to eat too much. It's a bit like it's in reversal, if we were working day shift and then some people have a heavy meal at dinner. So the idea is it's best to eat a heavier meal, breakfast time, lunchtime, and very light dinner time. So if night shift workers, it's reversed, then before you go to work, heavier meal, your midnight shift, when is your break time, then heavy means high protein, high fiber. And then you might need a high protein snack in between, but then 2, 3 hours before bed, just something very light, like a soup, a smoothie, something like that. Because it could be in the whole, there might be more calories than that's needed. And night shift, we're working day shift, we don't have time to exercise. So it's all of that together. So we have to look at all four aspects.
I'm sure for many they would be happy to revisit the recording, and there may be aspects that each one of us might like to put into practice. But if someone is feeling that, where do I start? Or is this just one thing I can do that I will notice some benefit? Or is there a priority? Any tips on, the small incremental changes, which also give me feeling that things are possible?
Yeah, there's several things you can do right from now or from tomorrow. One is we talked about this 1 minute meditation, like the mindset. So you don't need to change any of your activities. You just need to, starting slow. So if you've never meditated before, trying to kind of bring in some positive aspects in the thinking. That's one. Second is there's some people say, and it's work, if you only increase your fiber, so every single meal you have a really high fiber. Fiber makes you so full that you won't want to reach out for anything else, right? So if you just have fiber, automatically it means you're having less refined carbs, less snacking. So I would say with every meal, introduce fiber. And then in the morning, if you have 5-10 minutes to spare, do some weight exercises, so strength training. So for example, there's some patients I say, as soon as you get out, do some quick, a minute stretch and straight on the floor, do planking. If you've never done it before, you won't even be able to hold for 30 seconds, but you are starting to build muscle. And it has to be incremental weight. It's not like you do the same thing, for months and months. Maybe after like 3-4 weeks, you start another dumbbell, like very simple. You might be sitting, watching the TV, have a little dumbbell, do like some arm. You can hold it at the back and do like back. You can do squatting, literally 2-3 minutes. You feel that burn, then you know it's working. So you can just start today, tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice. I think it's the quality that it's done, isn't it? Because at the beginning you mentioned in the title itself about balance. So sometimes we can sort of remove one addiction for another, and it can go into exercise. And exercise is obviously great, but not to have it as a substitute for a feeling of fullness, because then that might get like excessive. So do you have any tips for maintaining, a self-checking, like when things are done in the right proportion, or do you feel it's just an inner knowing when the mindset is right?
Mm. The fact that you're now more aware of it. So, before you would just snack mindlessly. Now, while you're reaching for that biscuit, you don't need it, but you're still having it. So it's a good step. At least you know. But then, say if you did reach out for that biscuit and like, okay, it's now in my body has high sugar. What do I do to balance the sugar? Then have some fiber and have some protein. So, say you have you can have some peanut butter, you can have a fruit with it, because that fiber will bind that sugar and it will slow down its release in your body. And if possible, go for a walk. Even 5-10 minutes walk means your body is using it, right? Now, I'm not saying that every 3 meals you have a high sugar and then you do this. Of course, if it's high calorie, it's not going to work. But ways of balancing. So any sugary thing, any carbs thing, always good to have fiber, high protein, some healthy fats. It balances your sugar, slow it down. And awareness, we don't realize the value of just being aware, because most of us are not. We're just doing things very blindly, you know, we're not even aware of our existence. I think feeling is we only become aware when we're about to die. That's what I realize. People on their deathbed, suddenly they're like, oh, you know, now it's time to reflect, because you can't work, you can't do anything. Even people who retire, they're not aware, because they focus on their boredom, like, okay, what do I do next? You know, it's kind of, we're not, you like that guest on the planet thing. We're not even aware who we are, what we're doing, what we're meant to do. So it's a huge thing.
Yeah, and hearing you say that makes me think about the picture you painted at the beginning of this Q&A was you walk in to pay for the petrol and there's the sweets, and then you go into supermarket. They put all the things in places you can't miss, which are those that sort of meet any unmet need might be there for a little sweetness, a little fullness, the things which we crave generally. They are in the way, and then the advertising, it's cleverly done to pull us, and then sometimes masked as healthy as well, but they're hiding the sugars, as you mentioned. So it's quite a situation that so nice to be empowered to take responsibility, that only really we can do it for ourselves, because no company makes money from the things which are good for us. They generally make money from the, what is being manufactured. So just to be aware, no one to blame, but that empowerment that we can do that for ourselves. And then at the level of mind, also what diet we're taking in there. So, yeah.
I'm pleased you brought that up, because this actually, you know, if you're not in a guest and a master, kind of owner of your own body, we are in a slave mindset. And you hit it on the nail there. The society, you know, the big kind of those food industry, you know, billions is pumped to make you into a slave, right? And it starts from the time you're born. Even when you're in the womb, mum might be addicted to things that they think it's normal. Then when you're born, if you're on baby food, baby milk, that's also got sugar. So anything they add, it's meant to change your taste buds. So sometimes it's not that you want it, but you've just become addicted. And when you're addicted, you're not in control. So because your taste bud is changed, you're only going to be craving for those unhealthy things. But what research shows, it only takes 7 days to switch our taste buds back. So say, for example, someone is, you know, you keep saying, oh, don't eat so much sugar, eat healthy. They're like, yeah, they don't try. One day they get diagnosed with diabetes, next day it's switched. And you're like, how? You know, and even with the smoking, they can't stop smoking, tried everything. They get diagnosed with cancer one day, next day they just stop without any, like, cold turkey, like we say. They don't have any craving, they just stop. So we don't have to wait for diagnoses like that. You know, we have to work on our mindset, because we know it's possible. So when we start eating healthy, then our taste buds change, then we start liking the healthy food. Otherwise it will all be bland. You know, we won't be wanting to eat them.
We had a meditator, part of the community in London, and he had gone into addiction, and he came out of it, and he said, you need a replacement. And I think in the way that we live, if it's from outside in, we tend to get addicted to something for for feeling full. And so addiction can be of many things. But if we have a replacement, that feels also very nice, that we can also focus on that. So maybe also it could be, and I know you've mentioned this before, it could be like having something which is a snack which is healthy and tasty. It can even be like, cut raw vegetables, but at an inner level as well, knowing to point the mind to something which makes us feel full from within, so that we can direct there rather than focusing on the diet, which may be, what you can't have, what you can't do.
Yeah.
So there aren't any other questions, and I'm really appreciating this opportunity. Although someone has hand raised, do feel free to type. We can create a few more minutes for the Q&A. It'd be lovely to hear. If there's any aspect you would like to underline, then we might have some meditation also.
Yeah, it's a lot of information, and feeling is people know, we all know what we need to do, but we don't have the strength to do it. And the question is, where does that strength come from? And that strength come from that inner reflection and inner work. You know how we said in the beginning, as we get older, we lose our muscle mass. You know, that's normal, it happens. So if you're not proactively looking after it, proactively building, we're not going to gain anything. It's the same for the mind. It's a bit like the guest is lost on this planet. And if we're not proactively getting to know who we are and what we really need, nothing will happen. We'll just keep going into this spiral down until some crisis will happen. Then we'll be like, oh my God, what do I do now? But I mean, it's never too late. But once when crisis, it can be harder. But of course, it's never too late.
Absolutely. And whatever you do will be an inspiration for others also. So it's like really a real helpful, become an example. So it's not a question but a comment. They're saying thank you very much. Been trying to lose weight for nearly a year, and it was only recently after I looked outward from within using meditation and journaling that I was able to start consistently losing it. And so nice. Thank you for sharing, because that's also giving, courage and enthusiasm that things are possible, and really congratulate you on your efforts, and good luck. Yeah, I find journaling, I like it a lot. You can use it in different ways, but to consolidate what the perspective that you want to have is nice. One thing is to just put down what is in the mind, which has its results and help, so it gets it down, but also to create time to write down that the fullness and the self-discovery. It becomes a meditation, so and it's helpful. Okay, so
Journaling is good to reinforce because for some reason our mind is made to forget. It's a bit like that's the starting position. So, when we say write all the different colored vegetables, stick it on your fridge, it's because you'll forget, right? We forget. So, we have to proactively do things to remind ourselves. So, whatever works, if you're writing it every day through journaling, you're reinforcing it. Or if you're sticking things, like you wake up and it's in front of your eyes, or you go to the kitchen and you've written whatever you can eat, or you've written some sayings, remembering that eating refined sugar causes this, like a drawing in terms of arrows, it will reinforce this. And then once it becomes a habit, then it's natural. But until then, we have to create reminders. Yeah.
I was recently watching a video, the channel that gives recordings of people who are reached like 100 and they're sharing their advice. And this is exactly what one lady who reached 103 said. I don't want you to regret anything like I've regretted. But she said, had realization at 33, but I spent 73 years, I sort of forgot. And she said we have good intentions, but it's a journey of remembering, remembering and reminding of these things which we know are right. And that gentle returning, she said, remember and return, which is very nice. I have this tiny book which has been used where you just write down, reminders, the time that you remind yourself. So it is a process of coming back to what we know is that beautiful truth. So another question. Someone is asking, can you say a few words about overeating? I don't know if that's something you want to add.
I mean, it depends with overeating because if you're feeling full, I mean, there's a saying, a Japanese saying that, or even if people have read the book Ikigai, the kind of purpose of life. And I think it's a Japanese ritual that they eat until you're 80% full. So you don't even wait till you're full. 80% you feel full and then you stop, because you need the body like to have space to even digest, time and space. But here, not only are we full in terms of when we eat, then we have a dessert after, and you don't need a dessert, the snack and the starter, the main, and the dessert. So if we're eating high fiber, say lots of vegetables on the plate, so if we look at a plate, usually half of it should try and be vegetables. When we say vegetable, it could be steam, it could be salad, but something that's more heavy on the body, like broccoli, cauliflower, carrot, something root vegetable, not always potatoes, and then a quarter is protein. And usually we say like a palm size, like that amount protein. And then the other quarter, that's your long acting carbs. So that will be, or your grains. So I like to say grains, because even a high protein grains is better. So if you're eating a meal like that, you will feel full, and then you will stop eating eventually. You won't feel the need. Sometimes after we eat, if we feel the need to reach for something sugary, it could be a habit. So initially it could be a habit. So I'd say instead of reaching for a biscuit or something really sugary, maybe try a piece of fruit, because the fruit would have fiber. That fiber will make you full. So maybe something like that. But otherwise, if we stick with these principles of fiber, plant protein, then for me personally, and many patients we see, they don't count calories. The weight start falling off, because we're focusing on feeling of fullness and muscle building. So there's no need to count calories in that case.
I think that's a relief, and it's the mindset that we're doing it in, isn't it? Because if I feel empty or I feel I need to fulfill something, and then I prove that I can do this, that energy is not going to be sustainable. Something should be joyful, enjoyable, and to enjoy eating the right things and put the energy in that, and without that guilt. So yeah, I think that's great. Another question coming in: what tips do you have when you have a habit of eating for enjoyment or pleasure? She says, I find it difficult to eat vegetables because I grew up hating them.
Yeah. So to start with, the feeling of enjoyment and pleasure means something is lacking deep within, because we're seeking comfort in food. So food is giving us happiness, but this is not the right way. So first is what is lacking, maybe work on meditation, on fulfillment. So when you start feeling happy, not because of food, you won't reach for the food. That's one. But second is, it doesn't have to be vegetable to start with, because the taste buds have probably changed, right? So make a list of the things that you do like eating. And when we talk about plant proteins, so there were things like quinoa and different beans and pulses. So I would say if you love burger, for example, or you love pancake, then you can research on recipe, high protein recipe with whatever you love to eat, but try and convert it into something healthy. And there are many recipes online. So people who like mashed potato, what I say is, can you do a quarter potato and 3/4 white beans, right? And then you can add some spices and different, salt, pepper, this and that. So when you eat it, it doesn't feel like it's not mashed potato, but 3/4 is actually beans, right? And you can start slow, half, that kind of thing. If you love white pasta, start with having maybe half normal pasta, half lentil pasta. So it's not a big kind of switch, but slowly you're building it. And once your taste buds change, if say you don't like broccoli, but you love sweet potato, so make a sweet potato soup with some broccoli in it. You won't even taste the broccoli. So, try and, I hope it makes sense. So these kind of switching things, mothers who tell me their kids don't like vegetable, I get them to make vegetable smoothie. And that vegetable is broccoli kale smoothie, and nobody likes it, but it's packed with strawberries and berries, and it looks red. And there are chia seeds. It looks jelly, but that berry is just for taste. The rest is kale and broccoli. So it's that you kind of you're what do you call it, fooling your mind, and but then you're getting the veg in. Yeah, so we have to be creative, and we're so lucky nowadays. There's so much on social media, so much on different recipes and quick ones as well, like pancake. We talked about lentil pancake. So say people like sweet pancake, you do half white flour or normal flour, half you can put gram flour or millet flour or buckwheat flour, almond flour. So just you adding in different protein, different legumes and all to eventually make the same thing that tastes good but high in nutrition.
And it sounds quite exciting. There's a lot of self-care and self-love in that, isn't it? So sometimes also perhaps it's the way we cook, because when it's intentional with a higher aim to have a whole well-being, you're putting a lot of love into that. So perhaps also when we're cooking, to have a meditative space, if we can at all, maybe make the kitchen calm. So I think that's we're putting that into the food, and that can also have a result. I think there are some studies about how things are eaten, and you mentioned also when we're eating, when we're relaxed, then the body can do its work, and the whole system will function much better without that stress. So thank you. We managed to cover a lot, and much appreciate your contributions, the presence, your interest, and obviously feel free to share with anyone you feel would take benefit. The recording link to the YouTube is in the chat, so you can share it on. Thank you so much to Namrata for sharing your experience and what you've understood from two sides, from experience with people and also the nutrition, the holistic. So I thought we could maybe create a few moments of meditation, and just to really sit with what we've already heard, but to create the experience and the feeling that this is within the self already. We are just playing with the perspective that right now, this moment is a beautiful gift. Moment by moment, and noticing the gift makes for a beautiful feeling inside. And the body is also a wonderful gift. The mind can come back, come beyond, and realize so much more about the self. It's not defined by the temporary, what is transient. The starting position is of fullness. And belonging. If I just create this time, it changes my perspective naturally. The feeling of being lucky, just this quiet presence, is a contribution, a sense of meaning. Feeling of being beyond harm without those needs. Being as a guest, trustee, custodian. Never a slave to circumstance as we continue the journey. And this perspective is a thought away. Thank you. Thank you all so much, and look forward to connecting next time.